Price is Right.
Yeah,
and I did that show for 10 years. 10 years.
We used to watch Price is Right as kids, but came on about 11 o'clock, and we knew as kids we had to get up out the house after 12 because then them stories came on and the soap operas. Right, and then we got to go outside to play. But on the back end of that, behind the scenes, what kind of issues did you deal with as a Black woman, as far as racism, sexism, or anything that you may have dealt with behind the scenes on The Price is Right?
That's interesting as well, because I did write a book, and it's called Backstage at The Price is Right, Memoirs of a Barker Beauty. And there was absolutely blatant racism going on, especially in the studios at CBS. They weren't too terribly bad. And as a matter of fact, to backtrack a little bit, the reason that I was chosen, they were looking for an African-American model on The Price is Right, is because CBS was being scrutinized because most of their programming, a lot of the soap operas, a lot of the TV shows did not have any Black representation on the show. The Price is Right was one of them. The Bold and the Beautiful was one of them. There were several other daytime and evening time shows. So they had all out that whole particular year back in, it was in 89, that happened, because I was on there from 90 to 2000, actually. It started in 89. I got on in 90. So they had to do a whole reboot, and which was a good thing for us, the African-American entertainers, models, and what have you. But behind the scenes, it was really kind of difficult at times. You have to kind of feel that inferiority about things that were happening in life that you just thought you're being treated unfairly. So I did, kind of gather towards some of the very few stage-hands and Black and people that were there, that I saw back there. You just do. And that's one thing very important about Blacks. Us, we always like our kinship. I don't care what you're doing, where you go, and things happen, and you just feel very engaging, and you always want to have that kind of relationship with them, to say, you tip your hat, you walk down the street, you say hi. And that's something that's very important. But after a while, things did kind of balance itself out. And I think the reason that I was accepted, once again, a little bit more readily, there were 3 other models on the show, all white models. Mm-hmm. And I could hold my own, and they had auditioned actually a couple of younger models. And the fact that I had been worldly traveled all around in that my past as an entertainer, and having worked with Tom Jones, Julio Iglesias, Samuel Davis Jr., we worked with Red Fox, we worked with Manu Dibango, you name it, did that. That set really a great foundation for me. And I was really a very strong Black woman going into the, places, being the first model on that show. So I was not easily intimidated. But you can still feel the air and the prejudice amongst certain stagehands and the people and the producers and different things from time to time. But that still kind of goes on every now and then. I've done other TV shows, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Right.
So,
how was your relationship with Bob Barker, if you had any?
It was great. Bob, initially when I first got there, that show, we had such a wonderful time. Bob was very kind to the models, and he was just a great overall guy, and he would take all of us out periodically during the holidays and have a little dinner with some of the main staff and what have you. But at some point, all of that came to a halt, baby. He was having a sexual relationship with one of the models named Diane Parkinson, okay?
Uh-oh.
So that kind of turned bad, and she was a woman scorned when he broke up the relationship. It just really did not end well. And she had threatened to sue him. I don't know if you ever heard the story. She had threatened to sue Bob for sexual harassment. Now, this was like back in 1994 or something of that nature. But Diane befriended me, and I knew better. Everybody knew better. Everybody knew during the show, we had a break, and we taped like 2 or 3 shows a day. Bob Barker's dressing room was downstairs. Iris was upstairs. We know Diane, during the break, she'd go downstairs. She'd go down to Bob's dressing room with her robe on. we knew the hanky-panky was coming, going on back down, and we knew it very fully well. And one time I said, Diane, what you been doing? You go to lunch, girl, you got a little bit of yogurt on your face.
Uh-oh.
But after that, she didn't win the lawsuit because we had to go in for depositions. Everybody knew full well what was happening. She ended up dropping the case. But once you get accused, that's another thing. Once you get accused of sexual harassment or something, it sticks with you. And sometimes, even though you're vindicated, there's people who might have seen the accusation, but they never did get a chance to know that you were vindicated. So that stigma hangs over your head sometime. And after that, he was never really the same because he was always that all-American. Everybody loves Bob, give away the car, the kids, the show, and hugs and kisses and all of that. But, I found out a lot about Bob and his real demeanor after I had left the show as well. Some people said he was a bigot. I never saw it. I never experienced that with him. So in my book, I don't allude to that, but I do quote some things that other people have said about him that weren't very nice. But he did end up being not a very nice guy at the end of the day. And, I don't know if he was just getting older or like once I said that stigma stayed with him, unfortunately, and he took it out on us. So, but otherwise, it was really a great 10-year run on that show. And it did lead to other things for me in my career. So I'm very grateful to have been on there. But people do need to read that book. They can go on my website. I do have a great website, KathleenBradley.tv.
Okay.
And you can order it there on Amazon, actually. So do check that out, man. It's very good reading. Very good. Yeah.
Definitely noted. Bill Cosby, have you ever had any contact with him? And if so, what do you think about what's going on with him? He just won his appeal. But what do you think about Bill Cosby?
I've met him before. I've been in his presence, actually. I could have almost been a victim, but it turned out it wasn't meant to be. Let me just say this. I've been in his presence a few times and around some folk when I was dating somebody way back in the day. And but after that, I kind of ran into him again. I think it was at the NAACP Image Awards backstage or something. And he kind of remembered me from being with this friend of mine many, many years ago. And we talked. And this is when he had his game show. It was something like To Tell the Truth or something. I remember that. And the young lady that was on there, she was either leaving or going. And he knew I was on The Price is Right. He said that it might be a good opportunity for me to get on the show or whatever. And we went so far as to talk on the phone. He was thinking about making arrangements for me to come to New York for an audition. But I couldn't leave The Price is Right. So that never happened. So I'm pretty sure that audition probably would have been quite interesting, to say the least. So, everything happens for a reason. But with this Me Too movement, I do understand a lot why the women have to get out what they've experienced over a period of time. Some of the people are not credible, unfortunately. Some of the women that are not credible make it harder for the ones that are. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, why wait so long? Why wait so late? And it has ruined many men's lives. I think some people can be forgiven for certain things they've done. Bill Cosby is not one of them because there's far too many women that have the same story with with the accusations that he's had with drugging them, having sex and forcing yourself on somebody. You can say it happened, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Who's to say if you weren't there? And it's hard if you can't prove it. You can't go in and get the rape kit. You can tell somebody, yes, you can and can't. And right now it's becoming a little bit more harder to prove. But once it's been done and said, it's hard to either get vindicated. Like Justin Bieber right now, poor thing, he's going through it. Two women have come forth and said he did something with them. They said unequivocally that both of them are lying because they cannot claim that they were in the right place at the right time because he already has proof to where he was. So, it gets a little hairy, gets a little sticky as to what's happening with certain people. And, I just wish, if a woman has something that's happened to her, and hopefully this will show and teach them, go immediately to the authorities and tell them have some proof that's happened. Because some people have lied, and they have ruined some good men's lives over or behind saying certain things like that, you know, going way, way back 20, 40, 50, 60 years ago or whatever. Come on now. So it's a little hairy situation going on here. But every woman's, like they say, she should be heard. Let them say it. Let them talk about it. But y'all leave Joe Biden alone, God dang it. Leave our Joe alone. Leave him alone. A great white hope.